My name is Layla. I am 24 years old. Today, I want to tell you a story. It is a story about the man who changed my life, the man I was never supposed to love, the man I tried so hard to hate. But before I tell you the story, I want to ask you something. Have you ever stood in an elevator, just two people, total silence, and felt your heart do something it wasn't supposed to do? Have you ever looked at someone and thought, this is dangerous? Not because they would hurt you, but because they could destroy you completely, and part of you would let them? That is exactly how it started for me, and I almost ruined everything because of it. Let me take you back. It was a cold Monday in November, the kind of cold that bites your fingers and makes you wish you stayed in bed. I was 23 years old, and I had just started my new job. I was a junior writer at a media company in the city. It was a big glass building with shiny floors and people who always looked busy and important. I was not important. I was nobody. I had a small desk near the photocopier. The machine was loud. It smelled like burnt paper. Every time it jammed, everyone looked at me to fix it. I didn't know why. I was a writer, not a technician. But I fixed it anyway. I needed the job. I had moved to the city alone. No family, no friends nearby. My rent was expensive. My savings were almost gone. This job was everything. The first week, I barely saw my boss. His name was Daniel Rice. Everyone called him Mr. Rice. He was 34 years old. He was the editor-in-chief of the whole company, the person in charge of everything. He was not just powerful, he was intimidating. He walked fast. He spoke fast. He never wasted a single word. When he walked into a room, people sat straighter. People spoke quieter. People became nervous versions of themselves. I heard stories about him before I even met him. He fired someone for sending a report with a typo, a colleague whispered to me on my second day. He works until midnight every night, said another. He never smiles, said a third person. Not once, not ever. I decided one thing immediately. I would do my job, I would be invisible, I would stay out of his way, I would never ever give him a reason to notice me. I was very bad at following my own plan.
It happened on a Thursday, my third week at the company. I was carrying a large box of printed documents to the meeting room. The box was heavy, too heavy. I could not see over the top of it. I was walking carefully, slowly, down the long hallway. Then I turned the corner, and I walked directly into Mr. Reese. The box flew out of my hands. Papers exploded into the air. Hundreds of white pages rained down around us like snow. My coffee cup, which I had somehow balanced on top of the box, hit the floor. Brown liquid spread across the white tiles and soaked the bottom of Mr. Reese's very expensive gray trousers. I froze. The hallway was completely silent. People stopped walking. People stopped talking. Everyone stared. Mr. Reese looked down at his ruined trousers. Then he looked up at me. His eyes were dark brown. His jaw was tight. I saw a small muscle twitch in his cheek. "I am so sorry," I whispered. My voice was barely sound. "I am so sorry. I couldn't see. The box was too big. What is your name?" he asked. His voice was very calm. That was more frightening than anger. "Layla," I said. "Layla Hassan. I'm in the writing department. Third week, junior writer. I just started. I'm really..." "Layla." He stopped me. One word. Just my name. But it stopped me completely. "Pick up the papers." He walked away. He didn't look back. I got on my hands and knees and picked up every single page. My face was burning. My eyes were stinging. I would not cry. I absolutely would not cry in the middle of the hallway. I cried a little in the bathroom afterwards. Just a little. I was sure he would fire me. I spent the entire weekend waiting for a message. Nothing came. Monday morning, I sat at my desk and waited for the call. Nothing came. By Wednesday, I started to breathe again. Then something strange happened. My manager called me into her office. She looked both confused and impressed at the same time. "Mr. Reese read your article," she said. "The one about digital storytelling, the draft you submitted last week." "Yes?" My voice went small. "He wants you to rewrite it," she said. His words were, "It has real potential, but the structure is lazy." I felt a flash of anger. Lazy. My work was not lazy. I had stayed up until 2 in the morning on that article. He wants to see the new version by Friday, my manager continued. And Layla, this is not a bad thing. He never reads junior work. Never. I went back to my desk. I stared at the screen. Lazy structure. Fine. I would show him what a real structure looked like. I rewrote the whole article. I worked on it every evening that week. I pulled it apart and rebuilt it completely. I made it sharper, stronger, better. Friday morning, I submitted it. Then I waited. An hour later, an email appeared in my inbox. No greeting, no signature. Just 2 words from Mr. Reese. Much better. 2 words. And my heart did something ridiculous. It jumped. I told myself it was professional pride. I told myself it was just the satisfaction of doing good work. I was lying to myself.
After that, it became a pattern. Every 2 weeks, he would send me an assignment. Always a challenging one. Articles about complex topics, investigations, opinion pieces that required real research, topics that the other junior writers didn't get. And every time I submitted my work, he would respond. Sometimes 1 sentence, sometimes a paragraph, sometimes a list of notes for improvement. They were never warm messages, but they were always specific. He paid attention. He read everything carefully. He noticed things no one else noticed. And slowly, without meaning to, I started to look forward to those messages. I started to look forward to seeing him in the hallway, even though he only nodded at me, even though his face stayed serious, even though he never stopped to speak to me in front of others. I started to notice small things. The way he held his coffee cup with both hands when he was reading, the way he always held the elevator door, even for people far away, the way he said thank you to the cleaning staff every single morning, quietly, genuinely, when he thought no one was watching. He wasn't cold. He was careful. There was a difference, a very important difference. This was a problem. He was my boss, the most powerful person in my workplace. I was the junior writer who spilled coffee on his trousers. This was not a story that ended well. This was the kind of story that ended with embarrassment and unemployment. I tried to stop. I focused on my work. I went home. I called my mother. I watched television. I drank tea and told myself to be sensible. Then came the night that changed everything. It was late January, a project crisis. A major story had collapsed at the last minute. The whole team was in the office until 11 at night. By midnight, almost everyone had gone home. I was still at my desk, finishing the replacement article. My fingers were tired, my eyes were dry. The office was almost dark. Just the light above my desk and the light from the glass office at the end of the room. His office. He was still there. I finished my article. I sent it. I stretched my arms above my head and made a sound that was embarrassingly close to a groan. Then I picked up my bag and walked toward the exit. I had to pass his office. Through the glass wall, I saw him. He was sitting at his desk. His jacket was off. His sleeves were rolled to the elbows. He was holding a pen, but he wasn't writing. He was staring at the wall. He looked exhausted. He looked, and this surprised me, he looked lonely. I stopped walking. He saw me. We looked at each other through the glass. He did something unexpected. He lifted one hand. A small wave. Not a dismissal, not a greeting exactly. Just an acknowledgement. I see you. You're still here. Me too. I raised my hand back. Then I kept walking. In the elevator, going down, I pressed my back against the cold metal wall and closed my eyes. Stop it, Layla. Stop it right now. The next morning, there was a coffee on my desk, a takeaway cup from the cafe downstairs. My exact order. Oat milk flat white, 1 sugar. I had never told anyone my order. I hadn't even realized he'd noticed. There was a small sticky note on the cup. In his writing, I recognized it from his editorial notes on my work. Good article last night. You stayed late. Thank you. That was all. But my hands were shaking when I held that cup.
A week later, he called me into his office. Just me. He closed the door. He sat behind his big desk and looked at me across it. His face was impossible to read. Sit down, he said. I sat. I put my hands in my lap so he couldn't see them shaking. I'm going to offer you a promotion, he said. Senior writer. More responsibility, better pay, a real column with your name on it. I stared at him. I've only been here 4 months. I know. People will think, I started. I know what people will think, he interrupted. His voice was steady, but something moved behind his eyes. I want you to know that this offer is entirely about your work. Your writing is exceptional. You deserve the position. That is the only reason. He held my eyes when he said it. He wanted me to believe him. He wanted me to know it was clean, professional, proper. There is another reason I am telling you directly, he continued. He looked down at the desk for just a moment, then back at me. That small moment cost him something, I could tell. I need you to know where I stand, because I think you already know that He stopped. He pressed his lips together. I don't want you to feel uncomfortable. If this position creates any conflict for you, I want you to feel free to decline. No consequences, no awkwardness. He was telling me something without saying it. He was being careful. He was being decent. I looked at him for a long moment. My heart was beating very loudly. I accept the promotion, I said. He nodded. Good. I stood up to leave. I walked to the door. My hand touched the handle. Daniel, I said. I used his first name. The first time. I heard a small silence behind me. Thank you for the coffee. I opened the door and walked out. What happened next did not happen fast. It was not a dramatic movie moment. There was no sudden kiss in the rain. There was no passionate declaration in front of everyone. It was slow. It was careful. It was respectful. First, it was occasional conversations. Him stopping at my desk to ask about an article. Me asking his opinion on a headline. Small things, but longer each time. Then one Friday evening, he asked if I wanted to get dinner. Just dinner. He said it quietly, like the question cost him something. I said yes, like the answer cost me something too. We went to a small Italian restaurant 3 blocks away. We talked for 3 hours. I learned that he had built this company from almost nothing, that he had failed completely once before, at 26, and started again from zero. That the reason he never smiled in the office was not arrogance. It was that he had spent so many years being underestimated that he had built walls so thick he forgot there was another way to stand in a room. He learned that I had moved to the city with 1 suitcase and $400, that I wrote in my mother tongue until I was 18 and learned English from books, that the photocopier jammed almost every morning and nobody ever helped me, but I fixed it every single time without complaining because I was grateful just to be there. By the end of the dinner, the walls were lower. He walked me to my bus stop. The city was cold and bright around us. I should tell you something, he said. We were standing under the yellow light of the bus stop sign. You don't have to, I said. I want to. He looked at me. No walls now. Just honest eyes. I read your very first article, the draft you submitted the first week. I did not think the structure was lazy. I blinked. What? I thought it was the best piece of junior writing I had seen in 6 years, he said simply. I needed a reason to send it back to you, a reason to see what you would do, a reason to have your work come across my desk again. I stared at him. You made up the criticism, I said. I made up the adjective. A slow smile appeared on his face. It was the first real smile I had seen from him. It reached all the way to his eyes. The potential was completely real. My bus came. I got on. I looked back at him through the window as it pulled away. He was still standing there, his hands in his pockets, watching me go. And I finally understood something. Sometimes the most frightening thing is not someone who wants to control you. Sometimes the most frightening thing is someone who sees you, really sees you, and waits patiently, respectfully, giving you all the time in the world to decide what you want. That is what love looks like when it is done right. Daniel and I have been together for 2 years now. He still edits my work. He is still honest. He is still sometimes difficult and serious and intense. And I am still the woman who spilled coffee on his trousers on her 3rd week and almost cried in a hallway. But he tells me, even now, 2 years later, that was the day he thought, that one is going to be someone extraordinary. He just had to wait for me to believe it too. If this story made you feel something, share it with someone who is waiting for the right person to truly see them. Subscribe to our channel for more stories like this. I am Layla, and this was my story.